Two teas, please, Ray. Quite a mess in here today. Quiet, too. So quiet, you could almost record a short, scripted intro to a podcast before cracking on with the discussion.
Pete!
Hannah, you got here before me.
Shocking, isn't it?
Hey, I'm here in the nick of time, so I'm technically not late this time.
No, I mean the state of this place is shocking.
Yeah.
Crap everywhere. It's like the aftermath of a particularly cutthroat village hall jumble sale.
Yeah, and what's with that sign on the door? No more than 2 unaccompanied brats, yobs, or scallywags.
Ray's furious. He says it all kicked off earlier.
Oh.
Swarm of teenagers came in, all caffeine buzzed up on Monster. They kicked over his Kit Kat variety display stand and knocked over the old TV on the counter.
No, not the Kit Kats.
Never mind the bloody Kit Kat. The cathode ray TV took a tumble.
No, but Ray's Cathode Ray TV is what gave us the idea of meeting here once a fortnight to compare episodes from 3 different British TV series over the decades with a different theme each time that would have been watched on their original broadcasts on a Cathode Ray TV set, just like that one. Is it okay?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure it's indestructible.
Oh, good.
Now, have you remembered your homework?
Yeah, actually, yes. I've awkwardly brought 2 episodes of The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 and 3/4.
Well, I've bunked off with a couple of episodes of Grange Hill and a pair of press gangs.
Teacher's pet.
Naff off! Come on, let's get our teenage kicks.
It was a mistake, Pip, I'm honest.
You shouldn't have done it, Stumpy, because now I'm going to do you. That ain't going to help you.
I've never known anything like it. What is the hope for this school if this is what they're capable of in the first year?
So, this is an opportunity for us to discuss the way in that teenagers have been portrayed on TV over the years. When TV was real, obviously. When TV was the right proportions and when it was magnetic rays blasting at your eyes, none of your crystal nonsense.
Basically, when you had a choice of CBBC or CITV, and that could be quite vicious because I cracked my brother's head open whilst we were arguing over the 2 of those.
Yeah, I think that was a time when people were just a bit more civilized. Well, maybe not at your house. We were a BBC family, obviously. I watched Blue Peter.
This does not surprise me whatsoever.
But if there's one thing that made me terrified of going to the big school, it was Grange Hill. I mean, it just looked like carnage there. That was people were rude and pushed into each other in corridors.
So, what's your era of Grange Hill?
That's a good question that I should have prepared an answer to. Okay.
So basically, if you're over 30 and grew up in the UK, you will definitely have been aware of Grange Hill, I think. And there's a good chance you saw some of it.
Yeah. I mean, because it ran from 78 to 2008, of course. So that covers a real range of people. And I can remember being little and it being about teenagers and when it first came on. I don't think I watched it when it was brand new. I think I watched it in the early 80s and then through to probably to the mid 80s. So yeah, it's that period of from the age of 8 or 9 through to early teens. And so yeah, Zammo, the whole Just Say No thing was at the peak of my Grange Hill watching. And there was it Gonch, the red-headed guy, who was always he was very Thatcherite, always coming up with schemes and things. But there was that awareness that it had been going for a few years before then, and that this wasn't the first generation by miles, but it still had its original theme music, which weirdly turns out to also be the theme music of Give Us a Clue when that first started.
And here's your host, Michael Aspel.
Yes, written by Alan Hawkshaw, who wrote many wonderful stock music.
Oh, right. Okay, it's got pedigree.
Yeah. Well, my era of Grange Hill, so right at the end, but I don't remember watching a great deal of it, but I remember being aware that it'd been around for a long time, and I first remember watching it in my first year at secondary school. But I think it was about a term in, so I was already had been through some of the stuff that they had, so it wasn't like a prefigure of stuff. Where certainly by my time of watching TV, if I saw at high school, it tended to be American stuff, which completely different, and I had no idea. I just was like, oh, that's
What are they
pixel.
doing? Yeah, they all drive to school, and then they go and then they go to school parties which they call proms, and they all drink soft drinks out of paper cups. Very
I
strange.
was watching repeats of Saved by the Bell about 10 years after it went on. So they had these absolutely enormous mobile phones, and I just presumed that they were carrying around their landline phones because that was the only thing we had then that looked like that. So yeah, I watched an episode of the first series of Grange Hill some years ago and really impressed by it, and then ended up going and doing all the first 10 years worth. It's it's a really interesting series to watch as an adult.
Mm.
You just kind of realize there are so many aspects of school life that don't change at all. Like it's very certainly as odd. I was like, oh, well, that's what our corridors look like. And you get it's almost like stock teachers and character traits. I suppose it is a bit nostalgic for me to watch it and be reminded of bits of my school days, which is something I probably would never have thought I had because I don't necessarily have the greatest memories of my secondary school and days. I think I've probably forgotten about some of the small little things that actually made teenage life fun at times, even if it is just mucking about with your mates.
Yeah. And the sort of the gossip and the sort of scandals that goes on between when there's a rumor about a teacher or a rumor about one of the other kids seems fair. I'm pretty sure that is a universal experience.
Well, we've kind of got three different quite different shows, but Grange Hill is point out for anyone who isn't familiar, perhaps with it and hasn't gathered by now. It is set in a school, and you don't see the kids' lives outside of school that much. It's really just based around that, and their friends are school friends. There's not much behind that, and I guess it's very good at telling things from the kids' point of view. Often, even though there are adults in it, of the teachers, and in some cases, they tend to stick around longer than the kids
Mm.
because they can be there for years and years, and the kids grow up and have to leave. And usually, you can clearly tell the actors are getting to exams age, and
Yeah,
they do
yeah, and
rotate through quite a bit.
yeah, they must be with all these things. You've got to cast kids who can still. It's fine if they look 5 years younger than they are now, but in 5 years' time, they've also got to look 5 years younger than they will be then, and you can't be sure how the genetics are going to play out, can you?
Yeah, like so I picked episodes for us to watch from series 3 and 4, which covers 1980 and 1981. So it's fairly early days,
Hmm.
and we've still got the first lot of first years. You kind of tend to get introduced to a new year. They stick around for a bit. You get another new sort of younger year introduced, and then for a while you might have sort of two lots, and then one leaves, and you get another one come in and do sort of that. So in
Hmm.
theory, we've still got like that sort of first year, which is probably kind of well-known names like Tucker and Alan, who is quite a few years older than I think the sort of 13, 14-year-old he's meant to be playing at this point. But as kind of time goes on, I think they're a bit better and probably a bit more confident at casting younger actors.
I do love. There's a very definitive acting hierarchy of the ones who are sort of saying words, kind of getting it about right. But then I mean, that the more expressive kind of acting that we'll get to later, things we're comparing this to, is less like what teenagers are stilted, and they do walk across rooms unconvincingly. Sometimes adolescents aren't always sparkling with quips, and they do put the wrong emphasis on words in sentences sometimes. So that kind of makes it all feel more real. But then I'm just thinking, am I just remembering watching kids act like that on TV? Is that actually what we were like? I'm not sure.
Teenage boys can definitely be quite awkward.
Yes.
Well, the episodes we've got, the first one sees some inner city kids having their horizons broadened in many ways. That they go off for sort of a day in the countryside, and some of them have their first cigarettes, and others have their first bras.
And this is series 3, episode 3, not episode 10. Started watching the wrong one at first.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. um and yeah, I love that the fifth formers are campaigning to have their own fifth form common room because the sixth formers have got one, and there's like that kind of high. Our school had that kind of hierarchy that if you were doing your GCSEs, as it was by then, you had to wear a uniform, but if you stayed on to do A levels, you didn't. And there's a
Yeah.
bit of that because I noticed there's some very lax application of uniform rules in this school.
So it's a big thing in the first couple of series that they want to get rid of school uniforms.
Right.
And then by the third and fourth series, there's rumblings about them coming back, and they do eventually bring them back.
Oh, because
Um,
they meet an angry sixth former, don't they? Who's like, we're gonna have to put uniforms on again because of you.
well, she's not a sixth former, but she's one of the older years
Oh, right, I
who
see. She's the fifth.
made a
Yeah.
big fuss about it. But it's interesting. So that's sort of the series 4 episode that we did. And one of the big reasons they kind of argued for getting rid of uniforms for Grange Hill was that not all kids can afford a school uniform. And it's a point in like the sort of opening episode of Grange Hill that there's a lad who comes on and he hasn't got a school uniform because his parents can't afford one.
Mm.
And Grange Hill is it's meant to be, I think, quite a mixed area, which is helpful because it reflects the accents of the kids, which do vary considerably. And we do kind of, when we do get an insight sometimes into home lives, they can be quite varied. So, but yeah, you'll sort of see kind of you have a kind of point where you have some kids in uniform and some not, especially the older years who just really sort of didn't want one. But then there's other times as well, they're quite lax about it when it does come to uniform, and it's kind of like if you've got like the shirt and tie then and some trousers, then it not then
That'll do.
you can
Yeah.
like, whatever shoes you've got on, that's it, that's fine.
Yeah. Like at my secondary school, it was it was yeah, at my school, the bit that had uniforms had a different head teacher and was very strict about saying that this is about an equalizer. It means you've just got to have one good pair of shoes. You're not going to be pressurizing your parents to buy trainers and things. So they pitched it because it was a a comprehensive, just like on Grange Hill, really, it was a comprehensive with you do as working class, middle class, a real range. And as we'll see, Adrian Mole later, he goes to the same sort of school where there are girls who've got ponies, but then there are people who's had their electric cut off, and you're sat next to each other.
I look back and I hated having uniform, but actually we had very little like actually branded and logoed up stuff
Mm.
compared to I think what seems to be become sort of more and more common. And certainly like it was at primary school there was uniform, but it was like sort of there was no expectation that anything would have a logo on. Most people parents tended to buy a school jumper, especially if it could be passed on to younger siblings
Yeah.
over the years. So they were red and you get various shades of red of them. But there were also just plenty of people who just had like a sort of red school style jumper with no logos.
Well, I had to wear a blazer with the logo on it. Yeah.
We had blazers with secondary. We were only the second year, and so we were called Blazing Squad. Which dates
That does, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, iron on patch, school tie, and that was it. It put like there was everything else was
Did,
just colours. Yeah.
did you ever walk quite slowly in the street while explaining what you were planning to do during the day? Because I noticed quite a lot of that happens in both of these episodes. There's some good corridor acting, but the kids do have to concentrate on getting the plot out while they've got a pan shot going on and the camera can't move all that quickly.
I feel if I was wandering this slowly down the corridor on the way to lessons, there'd have been some teacher yelling down at us, "Stop dawdling, come on!"
It was good to compare the two episodes just over a year apart because it's series 4. Everything seemed a bit stagier, and I don't mean that pejoratively. I just mean it really feels like it's being performed more than in series 3. Where series 3 they were trying to not act like they were performing. They're trying to be a bit more. We're just some kids at a school saying our things. And there's the scene. Oh, sorry, I can't remember which one it's in. My notes aren't good. With the boy who's concerned that he thinks his parents might be about to split up, and they just have this conversation about it. Or was that in the wrong episode that I watched? That might have been in the one that I wasn't meant to have. Oh yeah, it was. That was in episode 10 of series 3. But it was just like there's these two boys having this really awkward, quite flatly delivered conversation. Oh, your parents having a row again? He's like, yeah, I don't like it. And it was just really unstagey to the point where it's quite wooden, but then that is probably what 13-year-old boys talking about divorce would sound like. Yeah.
There is also that the series 3 episode we watched has got quite a bit of stuff on location, whereas they're all in the studio for series 4 one.
Of course, yeah, yeah. That affects performances, doesn't it? They can be
Yeah,
they'll be much more naturalistic outside.
yeah, and there's always an episode or two each series where there's a trip outward bounds. They do try and get them sort of out a bit. Yeah.
That was Mr. Lewis. Now, it's through his good favour that we're allowed on this land today, and he's trusting us not to do any damage nor cause any nuisance. So let's not betray that trust, okay?
That's it!
Okay, that's it, I think. Now, fire's up, Mr. Lewis!
There seemed to be a thing for a while of making sure inner city kids got out in the countryside.
Yes.
And as someone who sort of lived several miles away from school and went past numerous farms and fields to get to school every day for a good decade, this was baffling to me. Like, as a kid, why do they want to come here? Like, it's just some fields and smell of cow shit.
Oh yeah, obligatory. Someone has to stand in a cow pat. That has to happen every time a TV show takes children to a field.
Yeah, so they head off in that. There's an earlier scene where some of them are trying smoking the first time, so it's kind of planted, and then they're off again. Alan's the regular smoker, which is quite right because he looks a good 5 years older than
Yeah, and he's a good actor. He's one who I thought just was good at acting. Yeah.
He is older, and he is one of the ones who's been in it since the first series.
Right.
So he's had a few years on it, and then lots of surreptitious smoking. And Alan's the only character I've encountered in that first 10 years of the show who is a regular smoker among the kids, which it doesn't match the statistics at all for teenage smoking at the time, when it's something like sort of 20% of teenagers were smoking in the 80s, hence the launch of nicotine, this anti-smoking superhero.
That sounds like a Simpsons thing. Was that actually real?
Oh yeah, it's published like Superman style adverts in like Marvel sort of comics and posters and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, some of the lads are far more interested, I think, in the sort of glimpse of a bra.
Oh, and the girl, I love the girl who reveals that she's been pregnant for 24 hours. She's like, apparently girls know that. That's amazing. I didn't know that it worked that way, but she just immediately knew. Her clothes were all changing.
So that's series 3. Series 4 is, well, it's not his first episode, but it's an early episode for Norman Gripper Stebson, who will go on to have quite a sort of large sort of bullying plot later. But
right.
He's still quite a nasty sod here. And basically we have Pogo Patterson, because plenty of these kids don't have proper names. Obviously, the coolest thing at school is to have a good nickname.
To be a kid that gets a nickname. Yeah, most people like us didn't. We just always called each other by our surnames because our teachers always called us by our first names.
Well, see, that is interesting that here all the boys are called by their surname, and this seems to have been sort of more of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I once called one of my friends. You would use your first names in front of your parents and each other's parents, because you'd get told if you didn't. But then you'd but like I once accidentally called my friend Neil when there was no adults in the room, and I got the piss taken out of me for ages about Neil. It's his name. Like, I'm so stupid. Lambert.
But, Pogo Patterson is our of this rations year, the one on the make. So
Right.
I had earlier school, but there was always someone who was trying to make some money selling packets of chocolate bars, cans of pop, something. And Pogo has many schemes, and his current one is people paying him to do their homework, which sounds like the worst scheme ever.
Yeah, and this one seems. I don't know if this episode is, but the previous episode was much more of an ensemble piece. The
Mhm.
one from series 3, whereas this one it's the Pogo show, isn't it? He's the star of this episode. It's and some other stuff happens too, but all the main narrative keeps coming back to him and his scheme.
I think it kind of tends to vary. We do get the big ensemble ones, especially when they go out on
Mm,
trips, but it tends to sort of have ones where you kind of have others as peripheries, and then you can focus more on sort of a couple. Certainly in the early series, it varies so much, and there's some characters who just crop up for like an episode or two and then are never seen or heard of again.
right. So yeah. So they just mix it up as the plot requires, I guess. Or how good the kid is and how cooperative the parents are around scheduling and that sort of thing.
Yeah, most of them were recruited by a few different stage schools, so you tend to hope that they got something going for
Yeah.
them. But I think it's probably also the case that some are, better in front of the camera than others.
Yeah. Now this is before the most famous probably person to join Grange Hill being Mr. Bronson.
Oh, yes.
It is time that young man was brought into line.
I remember him joining. Yeah, and we had a teacher just like him at our school, so it was like, oh, see that new teacher is just like him. Yeah, but this is Mrs. McCluskey being sort of regal, just pressurized and sort of just so. There's a bit where she turns to some children and sort of goes, "Are they first years?" or something like that. It's like, who are these people? These annoying little brats who do
If you
completely trash a room. I mean, that's you get some good violence on Grange Hill. In this case, well, no, they are having a fight, aren't they? But it's mostly the furniture
Yeah.
that gets damaged.
I thought the fight was quite good actually. Or the trashing of the room, we see that it's quite accidental. Of basically, poor Pogo is trying to defend himself from
Yes.
terrifying Gripper, but is just quite clumsy about it, and really crashing bookcase and tries to swing a cricket bat, but it's too big for him basically, and smashing glass. Yeah,
And
and Mrs. McCluskey going,
All right, well, if you want to behave like infants, you'll be treated like infants. Go to my office, I'll deal with you there.
and that they're doing that teacher thing of walking into a situation where there's clearly a victim and a perpetrator and just saying, "You two, stop that," and treating them both as if they are the cause
Mr.
of the
Hotwood
problem.
literally walks in with like Gripper is on his knees, like beating the crap out of Pogo, who comes away with a bloody nose, and hasn't been seen to do anything.
No, he says, "Stop messing about, boys."
But yeah, Mr. Hotwood's one of my favourite teachers, is because he's quite firm but fair, and like he's the one who takes them out into the sort of countryside in series 3, and
Right.
he wants to do nice things for them. He clearly wants to keep non-uniform, not have school uniform brought back, and when they go to the meeting to decide on it and vote for it, he doesn't go along with Mrs. McCluskey and vote for it. He doesn't vote
Because he's cool and he's
it.
kind of slightly handsome in a sort of not creepily not too handsome to be a real
No,
teacher, but
yeah.
nevertheless, you'd see him in a knitwear catalogue, kind of looks. And I imagine, and there's that thing, and this does it, and other things do it too that we'll come to, of there being that there's always that clique of kids, usually girls, who are that bit more mature and who are kind of they're in an intermediary hierarchy. It's the prime of Miss Jean Brodie if we were bugging something, a movie into the mix of this, or the TV series of it, which is great. There's that thing of the teacher who picks out the cream of the crop to treat them as little adults instead of the others, the ones who've got a bit more maturity and a bit more potential.
Then there's the lads who we found giving birthday beats to the lad and nearly breaking his back.
Did you call it birthday beats? It was just the bumps at my school, but
probably a bit of both. But I kind of seem to
I've not heard birthday
yeah.
beats before. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, but I get that's the kind of thing that different regions would have their own names for it. There's the There is the one kid who does a spectacular job of, I think he's doing it deliberately, just being really annoying. Pogo's brainy friend mate Matt, and I was just like, he deserves bullying. The one who's like, oh, I'm
Yes.
not doing this, you did it for me, or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, that's my sole note on him. Is deserves
Yeah.
bullying.
Yeah, his friend Dwayne is a bit more. I feel like he gets dragged into Pogo schemes. But
Oh,
I
that's
think,
right. Yeah, he tries to persuade Matt. He tries to outsource the essay writing to Matt
yes.
because Matt's the cleverest boy he knows, but Matt was having none of it. Why should I help other people?
Yeah, we end
Oh,
up like that. Well, Gripper's suspended until the end of term. Not sure how near the end of term they are.
We're getting there because what is it? It's about just short of 20 episodes a year, isn't it? A season.
Yeah, I don't think the early ones have quite so many, but certainly, yeah, the late ones go on, and even more than that. I think by like sort of series 9, 10 of them. Yeah, poor Pogo gets the cane.
Oh yeah, God, I don't remember that being. I don't remember that ever being a thing in like the late 70s, early 80s. I know it was still allowed. It hadn't been
Yes,
outlawed, but I think schools had decided the teaching profession had turned against it.
it crops up in an earlier series, but it's quite kind of casual in this one.
Yeah.
Like they're reference to it. Whereas in that early one, it's like taken incredibly seriously and is like the worst possible thing apart from like getting sort of suspended or chucked out that can happen. Whereas this, he gets it for running his homework club, basically. Yeah, feels a bit harsh. But she's clearly in an unforgiving mood at that point. Yeah, she's not making friends in her early years there, is Mrs. McCluskey.
No, she's not going to be there yet. She's not no pushover.
Yeah, with neither the pupils or the staff.
So should we time jump forward a little bit? Although not all that much, because we picked Grange Hill from the turn of the decade.
Yeah.
And I'm only taking us up to, on TV it's 85, but it's set in 81, and but the book came out in 82, and the book in question is the formative literary work of the 1980s, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions.
I'm profoundly in love with Pandora. My poem is an intellectual thing.
But whatever happens, you won't forget that I'm fond of you, will you?
Fond?
It's just that for some women, marriage is like being in prison. Good night, love.
Marriage is nothing like being in prison. Women are let out every day to go to the shops, and quite a few go to work. I think my mother is being a bit melodramatic.
I don't think it's talked about enough nowadays as how huge it was. The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4, was just a defining thing. I mean, it was published when I was 9. And I definitely read it a long time before it came. Everyone has read it. It was a book that just everyone had read, particularly if you're from Leicester, and it's written by Sue Townsend from Leicester. It's set in Leicester. We'll come to issues about that in the episodes that we're reviewing, which still
I have questions about your opinions on some of this, yes.
Which still rankle. But and it already. I mean, she'd written. I think there was a play of it first, and it appeared on the radio in a sort of pilot sort of sense. I think it was called Nigel originally, and Sue Townsend was writing bits and pieces, but then she wrote it into this novel, and it just absolutely took off. Everyone had read it. I remember hearing my parents reading it. After I'd read it, my parents borrowed it, and I could hear them laughing at it in their bedroom when they were like, and I could hear Mum saying, "Oh, look at this! Look what he's doing." So it's all about the awkwardness of teenage life and this boy who is on the verge of realizing that other people are human too, and he hasn't quite dropped yet. And so when his parents start behaving strangely, he's kind of mystified by it. And of course, and it's that great thing. It's really good writing where the author is putting you 2 steps ahead of the narrator, yes. and then eventually you get to enjoy the humor of him not getting it, and then you get to enjoy him catching up usually. And so yeah, it was inevitable that like this biggest children's book of the 80s. It sold 2 million copies. Sue Townsend was everywhere. She was on chat shows talking about it before the TV adaptation comes along. And when it does come along in 85, it comes to screen. It's starring no one has owned a role as much as Gian Samarco. He's just perfect. He also he invented the looks like the glasses were added. Well, I don't know if it was his idea, but Adrian doesn't have glasses in the book. That's never mentioned. But on TV, it just gives him such a slightly awkward look. And the way he dresses is perfect. There's one scene where he comes downstairs and he's got his jumper tucked into his really tight denim trousers with a really high waistband, and that is just so 1981, 82, because it's not quite, people aren't quite over the 70s yet. We've got an all-star cast, really. We've got particularly Julie Walters as his mum, who we only keep for one series. And both of the episodes I picked are from series 1. I went with the first episode, and then another one, episode 3, which jumps about. The first episode introduces everything. Episode 3 is a more sort of regular episode, but there's still lots going on in it. And yeah, it begins with him. He starts his diary. His parents' marriage is decidedly on the rocks. And we've got Beryl Reid as his grandma. We've got
I love Beryl Reid as his grandma.
She's that so you don't get it. You don't see enough of the sort of posh working class. You know, everything's it's disgusting. If anybody, that's basically her catchphrase. And Stephen Moore as his dad he's in everything. He's Hitchhiker's Guide. He's Marvin the paranoid android in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I mean, and it's a comedy cast, but it's not done it's done for laughs, but it's not a sitcom. It's all on film. It's shot in real houses. And yeah, so was this the first your first taste of the TV series?
I had seen an episode a few years ago, and it's one I've meant to get round to more. Adrian Mole was still something I was very much aware of, like growing up. But
you were.
Yeah. But the book, but I didn't get round to it until I was an adult, and I feel like I probably had like more of like your parents' reaction of being so just far ahead of him. But also, I think if I'd read this as a teenager, it probably would have been sort of eye-opening of the mind of a teenage boy, which just varies from being so weird to filth, basically. But I love that he is both naive and a total snob as well.
Yes.
And has no right to be whatsoever. But even that, like, he looks down on his own parents in a way that it's just, I'm better than this. And I think it probably does lean into more of his sort of personality of he has aspirations and he wants to be an intellectual and go to university. And I don't think anyone in Grange Hill ever was like this.
No. Yeah,
and
that's true.
Certainly not as, even though you have probably characters who might have some things in common, it's that getting into his head and the underlying sort of stuff that's running through his mind, all thoughts about Pandora, and those just inner teenage worries and concerns that everyone has, but he's obviously convinced that he's the only one.
Yeah, it's that thing, people say, oh, you get the meme now where people say that isn't it funny how some people don't have an internal monologue? Like they think that other people don't have worries and thoughts, and that's exactly where he is. It would never occur to him that anyone else has a diary, and the way that it's delivered. So he narrates the TV show, and every episode starts with him looking in the mirror. And you're hearing what he's written in his diary that night. It's just a picture of his face, although he does occasionally speak to the camera, but it's not only very occasionally. But even then, you don't really notice it. It's not done like we're breaking the fourth wall, because you're hearing his voice narrating in between each scene, and then you just go into the scene that he's writing about. So it's really clever adaptation, actually. It's easy to take for granted. The adaptation is so smooth that you kind of don't notice that it's an adaptation and that it's quite an unusual format.
Yeah, and I guess because that narration is there from the start, as we open on a New Year's Day, and he's worrying about a new spot. Obviously, New Year, and that's just ruined his year almost. To the extent that he goes to wake up his hungover parents, and I was like, no, sorry, at 13 years old, I definitely knew better than to wake hungover parents, and certainly on New Year's Day. But it's so quotable. Like I think
there's a bit, he makes a joke. He says something to his mum. I can't remember what it is now, and he says, "I'm not surprised she didn't laugh. She's not an intellectual. She hasn't watched my PE kit. She's not like the mothers on television." It's just, Sue Townsend did have a teenage son, and I'm like, I really hope he wasn't like that.
But he's really quite sexist in ways about what he expects of women, and it's interesting that it's not just he doesn't think she should do this because she's his mom. It's stuff like when the neighbour's wife leaves him to go off with a sort of fantastic group of lesbians and from a Wellington refuge. It's something like he's like, well, he hasn't got a woman there to do it for him anymore.
No.
And you kind of realise how early these things are set for some people.
Yeah.
And but possibly because that's all he's seen.
Exactly. It's
them do. Like his mom does declare that she's going to go out and get a job, and just turns around and goes, right, we're going to have changes around here, because they clearly have had that traditional setup of dad going to work and mom doing all the housework and stuff.
And she reads, so his mum reads The Female Unit by Germaine Greer, which he then reads, which triggers his first erotic dream. And he, it's like he thinks his mum's interests are cooking food and cleaning up. He thinks that's what she does because she's a mum. And it's like, it totally blows his mind that she's being weird and doing other stuff. I do remember a conversation with my dad where he was like, I was going through the Argos catalogue trying to choose a birthday present for my mum. And I remember him saying, that Turner, don't go to the kitchen section. She doesn't want a new carving knife for her birthday. Oh, doesn't she? Well, that's what she does.
I feel a bit funny. It could be sexual frustration. On the other hand, it could be the boiling the bag cod in butter sauce I had for tea.
And the characters are all, some characters you don't see so much, but I think it works for it. The opener episode is, I forgot, a double episode, so it's 50 minutes, most of them, or ish, most of them are 25 to 30. But the structure is very episodic within the episode. Like you get little 10-minute stories that are clearly a chapter of the book. The book's good, very short chapters, well, it's a diary, obviously, but there's a beginning and a middle and an end to a 10-minute sequence, and then another sequence of the episode starts and he's off somewhere else, and they go on. Going on holiday isn't an episode, it's 10 minutes of an episode, and then they're back by the end of it. It really cracks through his year.
But it's a nice way you're building up characters while still just getting like glimpses of them. So like by the time we jumped ahead to episode 3, at which point Pandora is Adrian's girlfriend, but in the first episode, he's just really become aware of her and is pining for her. And there's a petition at the school gate, and I think like it might be one of our first sight of Pandora, is that like someone, like she's trying to get people to sign this, and then someone walks past and she shouts "Stab!"
She's the most.
So much when we find out more about her parents. They live on the road where they get the heavy papers delivered, and they're clearly Guardian readers, I'm sure.
Adrian has to deliver the newspapers to the girl of his dreams, and he's ashamed that he has such a menial job. But and going back to it is that thing where she's got a pony, but the pony is in a field with a broken down car in it, and it's that it isn't. And she's got a pony, but she's not going to a private school. She's going to a comprehensive school. There's generic 60s comprehensive, which could easily be the same building as Grange Hill, couldn't it? It's exactly the same type of school.
It's Neil Armstrong comprehensive.
Which I couldn't help noticing. It says on the front, Neil Armstrong Comprehensive 1966, which is very good foresight of them to have named it after him 3 years
Maybe the original name got changed very quickly. They hadn't done all the signage yet.
I don't think that's addressed in the book, but that is what it's called in the book. I remember that. And we've got little parts. We've got Freddie Jones as Mr. Scruton, the terrifying and slightly mad headmaster. but who's not doesn't do all that much in these episodes. I don't think he gets much plot, but he's just there as a terrifying presence. The second episode, in a way, I mean, we could have. It's always hard to pick example episodes. It is a bit weird that by episode 3, Pandora is suddenly his girlfriend and they're in love. There is an incident involving a petition in episode 2 where he gets behind her petition, and that's how they get together.
Yeah, we move through timelines fairly fast because we do just have these snippets of stuff, and it means that it feels we move quite fast through like his parents' separation, which is always kind of works well, like because we have like them having screaming arguments a bit.
Yeah.
But it means that it's not a soap. We haven't had to sit through like 6 months of this.
No, or they'll be yelling downstairs, and he'll be writing in his diary that my parents are so inconsiderate. Here I am trying to work, and they're making so much noise, and it doesn't occur to him that, as far as he's concerned, they're just making an annoying noise. Why won't they stop being so annoying? And then it does occur to him, and it's
and you get a bit more like of his gran popping around in that first episode. And I love Beryl Reid so much. I just want more of her. And there's so many moments. One where she goes, "You may think it's amusing, George, to look like a communist, but I don't. Now go upstairs and shave."
Yes. So her husband used to shaved in the trenches, and we shaved him when he was dead. If a corpse can shave, you can shave.
But also when the third episode, it's the royal wedding. The royal wedding. Which was already a nostalgic. Of course, by the time it went out in '85, this is nostalgia for 4 years ago. It's funny. But well, we'd seen, I think, earlier in that same episode, they've had a Hindu family move in across the road, which is fascinating for the very casual racism that's there. So essentially, must be several years, it's mid-70s, there's an episode of The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin where they're trying to buy up a house cheaply, and they manage to do this by, I think, sort of they're trying to buy up multiple houses, and one of the plot strands of them doing this is convince people to move out because they think that there's going to be like black or like Asian neighbours moving in. And thankfully no one's blacked up in this. It's still sort of there, like sort of Adrian's dad. It's all just like, they'll be sleeping two to a room, two
families to a room. And I think it's handled really interestingly because, and also earlier screen appearance of Mira Sayal there as the mum, long time before Goodness Gracious Me, and. But the way it's handled is that when the dad sees him, he mutters some generic racist bullshit, and then we cut away, and then we cut back, and next scene, Adrian comes. Well, there's a whole thing with Adrian and Pandora are really embarrassed by this and go over, but Pandora in particular goes over and welcomes them to the neighbourhood and reassures. And Pandora says, "My father is a member of the anti-Nazi League, so if you have any trouble from the people on this," because obviously Pandora is looking down on Adrian's tatty street and neighbours and is worried that the vulgar people on his street are going to behave as his dad has behaved. But then we cut away, and then we cut back 2 minutes later, and Adrian's coming home and his dad's there, and they're all over and they're all having a lovely time, and they've all become best friends. Kind of off screen, they've just become friends.
When they come over for the royal wedding, and then Beryl Reid's face,
she's still
just so. It is that thing of being this posh working class. She's not going to say anything, but she is like slightly horrified about it. There's a nice little actually kind of background dialogue between the Hindu dad and Adrian's dad, where Adrian's dad like, "I'll help yourself to a beers and everything and stuff," and he's just like, "Oh well, actually I don't because of my religion," and that's it. It's just some like kind of background dialogue while like there's proper like action sort of happening elsewhere.
So it just takes the line that actually it just when people get to know, it's very optimistic. People who get to know each other, it will burst that kind of bubble instantly, and then everyone is friends. Rather than it being, if Grange Hill was doing a racism episode, which I know it did do, it would be, but Adrian Mole is a comedy, so it's like
so you get Mrs. Mole Senior there dressed like the Queen want to watch this at home with a glass of sherry in her
Yes,
hand.
she's
I'm
got
fairly
one of
sure it's meant to be something like 11 a.m. in the morning, but and then
Yes.
they've got the Irish couple next to them who are sort of stereotypically necking a load of beers.
And not fans of the Royals, but there to see it anyway, or the dad's
They're,
grumbling about it.
they're there for the party afterwards,
Yeah.
in which Adrian turns up in a shirt and tie because he has no concept of trying to look cool at all.
Yeah, because then they have a big street party, which really is a Jubilee street party on my street. But then that's just because the age I was. I was 3 for the Jubilee, and I remember us having a big street party, and it was just exactly like the one on the Adrian Mole's Street have. And I wonder if that's what Sue Townsend was harking back to more. I don't know if there were maybe there were some royal wedding street parties, but that's where it took me back to 77 rather than 81. But still, I just thought it was a really nice resolution to the episode. All these characters who you've seen them not getting on or whatever, and including the couples who are getting divorced and everything, and the woman, the woman who just wistfully says, "Good luck, Lady Di. I hope it works out better for you than it did for me." Like, blimey. And that was how do you follow that?
One link elsewhere with Grange Hill with this is that there is so much smoking in front of the children in Adrian Hall.
And they're just full ashtrays in every room of the house.
If Adrian wasn't Adrian, he was some other child, he definitely would have been a different sort of statistic of picking up his parents' fags, because it's just constant, to the point of his dad comes into his room and he says, "Got an ashtray in here?" And Adrian's like, "No, I don't smoke."
Yeah.
To point this out to his dad.
A 13-year-old has to clarify that he doesn't smoke. Yeah.
You're not in trouble, are you? I mean, you've not got into bad company and been influenced into carrying on like a hooligan?
No. Just feeling depressed.
Depressed? There was no such word as depressed when I was your age. We didn't rely on video machines to keep us amused.
Some things it's just so locked into its time that, and I don't know whether it's doing it deliberately. Well, some things it's kind of like, for example, Leicester Love here. A lot of it is filmed. All the scenes where they go into town are filmed in Leicester. I think where the actual house was down in London, the street. Or in the home counties that's nearer, because it was a Thames production, but they did come up to Leicester for all the scenes of him out and about, and there's always Leicester buses going by with the correct livery of the early 80s, this sort of cream with a maroon stripe.
Nice.
But of the Leicester City buses versus the Midland Reds, which then became Midland Fox, which are yellow and red. No. More bus talk coming later. No, there's not.
They knew what Leicester people were going to be paying attention to. And
they did, and even at one point, and someone turns on the radio and goes, "You're listening to Leicester Independent Radio on 238." And I think that was the frequency, but that wasn't the name of the channel. But
so, Pete, let's talk about the accents.
Let's.
Are there any Leicester accents whatsoever in this?
Adrian himself. Gian Tamarco is from Northampton, which is not near Leicester, but not far. And he sounds more like someone from Leicester than anyone else in the entire thing, because they decided it's the Midlands, do a Midlands accent. What's a Midlands accent? Like, everyone talks like that from Dudley. Peter Barlow as I haven't mentioned Chris Gascoigne, aka Peter Barlow from Corrie, as Barry Kent, the bully, who was as formative for some people as Pandora was for others, because he's far too good looking. The bullies at my school were never that good looking. he's really handsome guy, and his accent, he gets this amazing line that goes, "I hate anybody that wears flared trainers." Where is that? In one sentence, he goes from London to Manchester and back again, but never lands anywhere in the Midlands. Whereas everyone else, Julie Walters is doing a Mrs. Overall Birmingham accent, and everyone seems to just roll with that. I think she's at the heart of it.
There's a postman with a black country accent. She goes, "I'll tell ya what's wrong with the GPO." And they clearly decided that they needed the GPO to rhyme with yo.
And it's like, okay, maybe Adrian.
Clearly there was some mass emigration from parts of the West Midlands to the East Midlands.
I mean, if Adrian's family were originally from Birmingham and had moved to the Midlands, that would sort of explain it. To move to Leicester, but no, just pretty much everyone at school.
Midlands underserved
Yeah.
even when we are being served.
Yeah, Midlands just the wrong bit. It's shocking, and people in Leicester were really annoyed about that, and I still am.
I think I've got a couple of other Adrianisms that I want to bring up, which is
Go for it.
him going to his mom and asking what's happened with the child benefit.
Yes.
And she's
sure
just not even entertaining this. Where I spend it all on gin and fags, and he's just there. He's going, by rights, it should be mine.
I'm pretty sure
I
I did.
remember asking my parents
me
this.
too.
When I found out, oh my God, this is a thing. Why am I not getting this as pocket money? And just my mum going, do you want to know how much your stuff costs? How much it costs to keep you? And the other one is him asking, sure, doesn't he ask his teacher? I think it is. What GCEs do you need to write situation comedy?
Yes. And he gets a rejection letter from the BBC on Valentine's Day. I have my rejection letters from the BBC somewhere. I love the dad. He says they're arguing. My parents are arguing over who gets to have custody of me, and it's clearly an argument over who does not get to have custody of him. So the series, they made 6 episodes, one of which is 7 really, because one is double length of the first book, and then they came back 18 months later and did the second series, Growing Pains of Adrian Mole, which is good also, but it has lost a bit of the impact, but it's still good. Although they recast, Julie Walters is unavailable, so they cast Lulu as his mum, who is a Glaswegian trying to do a Birmingham accent in order to convince you that she's from Leicester. In it doesn't work. I find it really, she's not his mum. It's just weird because she's just Lulu. She's a celebrity. Yeah. Lulu is a celebrity. You can't. Lulu from Lulu is being herself in Ab Fab. That's what I really think of Lulu. So it's very strange her trying to persuade me that she's a mum from the Midlands. But it's still, nevertheless, it's still perfectly watchable series 2 as well. Yeah. Sue Townsend said the one thing she really regretted was making Bert the old man that she loves Bert. Bert is her favourite character in the books, she says, apart from Adrian. And she really regrets that she made him in his late 80s when it started, because she wanted him to, because she had to kill him off. Because the books go on forever, as long as the much missed Sue Townsend was able to keep writing them. So she's writing them into the into the noughties. Or the early noughties anyway. Adrian Mole and the Weapons of Mass Destruction, I think, might be the last one. And it gets very weird. I mean, she has to keep, he has multiple divorces. His parents keep marrying other people and getting divorced. Because the farce element has to continue. Yeah. Funny things have got to keep happening. So, and for a while he ends up living in a converted pigsty, and it's sort of very strange. But she really regretted having to kill off Bert, because she puts it off as long as possible, and he's in it throughout all the TV series as the grumpy old man, but who's surprising. Like it reveals that he can conveniently speak Hindi.
Yes,
because and that gets on.
I really liked Bert in the books. I've read the first 2, and I feel like I want to go watch more of the TV series, because we kind of, these early ones is we've got him in his sort of grumpy phase and feels like he is a dirty old man.
He's filthy.
And that's sort of meant to have been the point of Adrian's got this helper role. I don't think it's entirely clear in the TV series how he got it, but I think it's something through school.
It is. Where they set it. It's very. Yeah, I missed it on first watch. It's very briefly mentioned. Yeah, I've volunteered for this scheme where you have to do good deeds for someone, and I think he says something like, "I hope I don't get a dirty old man," and then, or "I hope he doesn't have a dog," and he goes straight around there and gets attacked by a filthy old man's dog. But yeah, it's that thing of Adrian gradually discovering there's more to the world than.
And there's a lot more to Bert on the surface, and you kind of find out that he's got quite an interesting life, and there's a thing. I think Adrian being in his life opens up his life a little bit more, and he's clearly been quite lonely, and then he has an extra sort of family, and he's kind of like a sort of new granddad for for Adrian, with sort of dubious life advice sometimes, I think.
So that's one form of teenage comedy, the awkwardness, the never knowing the right thing to say, which is very early 80s.
And now we're going to jump right to the end of the 80s with Press Gang.
Different flavour.
Yeah. Press Gang set in the newsroom of the Junior Gazette, sort of spin-off from a local paper, written by the kids for the kids. And it potentially sounds like it could have been a bit naff, but it's an incredibly good series. And I'd known of it for a while before I sort of dipped into it when it popped up a few years ago on one of the streaming platforms. And I picked an episode from series 1 and then a bit later from series 4, which I haven't yet really sort of got to, so it was a bit more in familiar territory for me. And it's just so good. It's so, I don't even know how to get it because it's hard to go like a typical episode of it, but it's almost like the opposite of Grange Hill sometimes, because school is not the most important part of their lives at all, and it's incredibly tiny part of their lives. And it isn't a school paper for one, which it could have done that, but this is increasingly a sort of commercial, professional thing for a lot of them. Although most of them do all seem to come from the same school, which I suppose just makes it a bit more convenient.
Right, because I'd never got. Yeah, I was confused by that. I didn't when I noticed it when I was a teenager. I thought it was a bit weird that their school had a publisher had its own newsroom.
No, so yeah, I think like the first episode shows you that the editor of the main paper had this idea, and I think he approached the teacher at their school and said, could you suggest some people for it? And then it's Richard, oh yeah, we're going to get some other schools involved, and I don't know if they ever actually do, but it's kind of banded together initially by some people who will actually be keen and enthusiastic, and basically some people who are on the verge of getting kicked out of school, and it's like, start doing something useful and productive, and channel your energies into this. So it's led by Linda, who is not really a people person in some ways. She's still, this often feels like she's learning how to manage people. She cares about the paper above anything, more than anything at all.
How old is she meant to be? How old are they all? Because
they're never really clear about it of these early series I've seen
coming up.
But so the sort of series 1 episode I picked is called Both Sides of the Paper, which nice double meaning for the newspaper and their exam papers, where all the exams are looming and sort of Linda's struggling to keep the paper going because people are starting to drop out, and the headmaster of the school is pressurizing the parents of sort of people on the paper to pull them off it. But if the paper stops, then it's going to cost money to get it going again, and they're not sure whether that is actually possible. I think they're meant to be doing their GCSEs, because the way they talk about them is a range of subjects, and they kind of all seem to be doing the same ones. But it's another school where there's a mix of uniform and not uniform, and no one on the paper seems to wear uniform.
No, which makes me think they might be doing it. There might be A levels, but
yeah.
It doesn't. But so I see. But it's a choice to not actually specify that.
Yeah.
So come on, what's our situation?
Up a creek, running out of paddles, and tomorrow lunchtime I've got to go and see the headmaster again.
Why?
Because I asked to.
So what do you want to tell him?
Nothing I could repeat in front of him.
And in this episode as well, we have Tony Mirren, the phone ranger from a local radio station, who's coming round and trying to come up with some sort of story for his friend's radio show, and he approaches Linda about a potential job as an editor on his new radio show. And one of the things like he asks is, when's the earliest you can leave school? Which is therefore we're thinking, well, this has got to be sort of GCSE time. But kind of reminding me as well that there were years until, I was going to say fairly recently, but it's probably not anymore. It's been a long time since I was doing GCSEs. But you could leave school, I think, at like the Easter term, and not necessarily like stick around for your exams.
If you turned 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah.
I think, and he's kind of there implying to Linda of what your exams aren't necessarily the most important thing here.
She has a confrontation with the head teacher, which is really written from a sort of teenager's fantasy of what a conversation with a head teacher might be like, because they're talking to each other as if they're equals almost.
Yes.
They're bargaining with each other, and it's like, I don't know how many 17-year-olds get to talk to their head teacher like that.
Well, I think so. Why originally I thought they probably were sick formers, because it sometimes feels like they swan in and out and do what they like.
Yeah.
And you're actually ever in the school. But I think it's just for convenience, really, for some TV show wise. There's other times where it kind of makes it clearer that they get free periods and they're working before and after school. There's a lot of stuff where it seems to be like their evenings, that they're doing stuff in the newsroom.
Yeah.
But they're quite organised. They've got like a writing team, a sort of design, graphics, and typesetting even they get involved with.
And it's very but it's set in a it's clearly realism is further down its list of objectives than either of the other two. It's here to be funny, to be zappy, to be zingy. Everyone's got a witty line. Julia Sawalha is off to a stellar career. You watch this and you just think this woman is a lead actress of incredible talent. She just is not a child actor in any sense, or even a sitcom actor in a way that some of the others are. Some of the others are doing perfectly adequate sitcom acting. There's just something more to, there's the funny one with the one with the dark floppy hair, who's he's kind of the Xander if it was Buffy, the Joker, but not a complete clown. But they're all the butt of each other's jokes and quips. But there is like Linda's character, Julia Sawalha's character, is the whole thing is she's difficult, because she wants the best, and she's she's very, very clever, and she finds it very frustrating that other people aren't as clever as her. So it's written by someone called Stephen Moffat, who I just don't know whatever became of him.
Went on to write various sitcoms in the 90s.
Something to do with Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
But a smart, bossy, dominating woman who is, I mean, it's all about, she's the star. It's her. It's an ensemble cast, isn't it? But she seemed. I noticed these two. Did I tell you that I found? I can't remember if when we were floating this,
you did tell me.
Have you deliberately picked two Dexter Fletcher light episodes?
No, but I was delighted when I realised I had, because I was like, I don't want this just to be like just having to try and enjoy Dexter Fletcher.
He's so annoying. I just whenever he's on screen, I want him to not be on
screen. I didn't think
he
was. Now you've mentioned it, I'm now kind of finding him more annoying.
He's just smug and. But
I think it's the character more so is, and probably even more so when you're only getting glimpses of him in this.
You just entered a room without a string of gags about how pretty you are. Want to talk about it?
Oh, it's a sad story, boss. My ego got so big that it left me.
Spike, you know how you said you wanted to start dating other women while you tried to figure out how you feel about me?
What I said more accurately, Linda, was that I'd rather date any other woman in the entire universe, regardless of size, shape, age, creed, or species than you.
Sure, but if none of those relationships work out, we're an item.
He's kind of told that he's been like a sort of problem kid and stuff, but I find it really hard to believe, because I just find him like a kid who just seems like a class clown more than getting properly making trouble, and part of that is that he's a bit arrogant and loves himself,
I mean, they all do to some extent, and that's partly what I mean. I was I was 17 or something when this started, and I didn't see much of it. I glimpsed it occasionally. I found him really annoying. I couldn't believe how bad his accent was, and I know that okay, it's not doing a Brummie accent, but I know I've read that actually jokes are made about that within the stories that people say they can't understand what accent he's got or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, why would you shackle someone with having to do a voice like that? I don't know. But yeah, so there is that sort of smugness to everybody that didn't appeal to me all that much at the time and stopped me vibing with it, despite the fact that I know it's a lot of I knew people who swore by how good it was, but I never really gave it a chance because I do prefer my teenagers to be accidentally gluing aeroplanes to their faces and to their nose and things like that. Adrian Mole end of thing.
I think the thing about it, I've realised the more I've watched, it's not written like a children's series, which
no, it's written like a grown-up sitcom. Yeah,
yeah, and you can clearly see where that's going.
Yeah, and it's a 90s sitcom too. It's very modern at that pace. For its time, the opening credits are almost like the theme music is almost like a spoof of a late 80s soap. Yeah, so and it's playing with that. But yeah, it does feel ahead of its time, definitely.
I think the paper element gives them quite a wide remit for stories of you can do ones that are more about the characters' relationships, and you can do one where you can have the most like dramatic plots. Like, they don't shy away from stuff. There's a story about abuse and child abuse, and there's another one that addresses a teenage suicide, and they're all done really well whilst sort of still being appropriate for their audience, which is just children's slot. But then you can completely go off and you can do like the series 4 episode, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, because these episodes are both quite jolly. There's no but yeah, the series 1 episode 9, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, series 1 episode 9, and then series 4 episode 2.
Unexpected. As in, like, the Quatermass experiment.
This is going off into Jonathan Creek territory, I think. Again, before Jonathan Creek, just the fourth wall breaks are really cleverly, to discover that he's what. It's not too much of a spoiler, is it? We haven't needed to worry about spoilers too much on talking about these.
The plot is one of the newsroom team, Fraz, has agreed to review videos of Unexpected, which is an old children's TV show about this heroic crime fighter played by real life Michael Jaston. And then we find out after Fraz gets knocked out and mugged, he comes around and he starts seeing this Colonel X character. Except the problem is the actor who played him died in a car crash years ago.
Very well, then. Since you are treating me as if I don't exist, I will leave now and return later this evening, when, I calculate, events will have reached their terrible crisis.
It's a very, very Moffat-y, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Michael Jason is just having a whale of a time, isn't he? So this is
yeah. So his character's like, he's like in a long coat, wide-brimmed hat. He's full of like one-liners. He's like.
I love it when someone says, "How can you deprogram this computer?" And he says, "I have a hat pin and some string."
Yeah. He's like a mashup of loads of those, like, I guess, of 60s, early 70s, like TV heroes. So there's a bit of him that is a bit like Steed. He's a bit of the show almost seems like it could be a bit Avenger-y because it's quite fantasy, absurd plots. We get like Brian Glover playing a mad scientist,
In a tiny role. It's amazing. Yeah. And it's being watched on a video. It's clever visual playing where they at first you think it's shot as if he's in the room with these people, and then gradually it's revealed to you that he's watching them on a video.
Yeah.
And he's watching an episode of a TV show.
Yeah, the direction and editing of a lot of it is quite good, and you keep guessing through the episode what's going on. We're not entirely clear whether Fraz is really seeing Colonel X or whether it's the result of his concussion or whether other people can really see him. There's a bit where I think Fraz is, after he's been mugged and we see him unconscious, and then we see Colonel X standing over him, and it's like, well, is this more of a dream, or is it a shot from the TV show? Just the way it jumps back and forth between it leaves you a bit unsure and just wondering for quite a long time until Michael Sheard turns up.
Looping us back to Grange Hill, even though he wasn't in the Grange Hill that we watched. But and they get people of that caliber having these relatively small roles. Well, I say that caliber because we love them from all of their other appearances and all sorts of other things. I mean, we've got what's his name, Silver from Sapphire and Steel as
David Collins, head teacher of Norbridge High.
In the previous episode he was I mean, I guess it's part of the joke, but the idea that Dexter Fletcher with his strange rubbery face is telling Julia Sawalha that she's never going to get a date because she's too weird, where she's the most beautiful sort of glamorous looking woman that there could be. You have to just take that with a pinch of salt. I guess that's maybe a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
You hate Dexter Fletcher, don't you?
I do. I just loathe him.
I feel like you vibe more with maybe Colin.
I would. But again, it is that thing in Moffat scripts. I don't think I'd like to hang out with any of these people. Actually, they're quite funny when they're doing quips at each other, but I would get really tired of them doing that with me very quickly in real life.
What have I got myself into? The usual, and it's about up to your neck.
I would definitely hang out with Michael Jason as Professor X.
I want to see the Unexpected TV show. I love we get the
glimpses,
video. The video cover is mocked up. They mock up a TV Times as well with Colonel X on the cover.
So you have definitely, although I've still got some of my prejudices, you have. I understand now why it's so popular in a way that I didn't previously, because it does zip along, and it is funny. I found myself laughing out loud. I think, damn you, Moffat, you got me. That's such a Moffat-y thing. But I can't call it a Moffat cliche because it's like there's the bit where the guy says it's a policy of mine always to expect the unexpected, and then he gets punched in the face before he can finish the word unexpected. That made me laugh out loud. I can't deny it.
So I think it might be time to get out Ray's scale for each of these shows.
What are we gonna do? Yeah, how are we gonna weigh them?
So, well, I brought along Grange Hill. You brought along Adrian Mole.
Yes.
And I kind of brought along Roskang as well.
Yeah.
So for Grange Hill, we go from 0, I'd rather watch the test card, to 5, I'd spend hard-earned money on a lovingly prepared box set of this. Where are you sitting with Grange Hill?
It's difficult because also I'm not factoring. There's a lot of episodes of Grange Hill. You get good value for money, but we're trying to factor that out. Just go for the quality rather than the quantity. I mean, I don't spend much time watching old kids shows specifically, but I mean, it's definitely based on those 2 episodes. I'm wavering between a 3 and a 4, basically. I think, So I'm not buying the collector's edition. I'm not buying the steelbook, even if it's got Mrs. McCluskey on it, looking steely. But 3 feels harsh for something that is. It's got to be a 4. It's got to be a 4. What about you?
I think the Grange Hill, I'm probably more like on a 3, I suppose, because I've seen so much of it now. I know that the quality varies across series, but I also know I am still keen for more. I am so curious of how it will develop.
Are you doing the pilgrimage? You're going through the whole thing?
Well, you long pause because the DVDs are available up to series 10. And then clearly, like, sort of nostalgia has a price, and there's been no more they're floating around online. And so as long as I can sort of find enough of them, I'll probably like to explore into the 90s. We are kind of by the late 80s, getting onto about like we've got rid of long got rid of the first sort of cohort.
Yeah,
Still got some remnants of sort of later ones, really kind of freshly moving on a bit more.
Yeah. So Adrian Mole, how did he land with
Oh,
you?
I really enjoyed it, and like the Lulu kind of slightly probably puts me off.
Well, let's
Series
just
2.
well, let's just go with the Secret Diary then, because it's one book, it's one adaptation.
I've gone with the 4. Yeah, I on this one. It's just, it is so funny. I just love all of them. Like, yeah.
Yeah. People won't be surprised from the way I've raved about it. For me, it's a 5. The only release is a bog standard, very washed out network DVD with no subtitles, no special features at all. And I would kill to have it remastered because it's all shot on film. Please, Thames, have those film masters somewhere because it could look amazing. Although maybe it shouldn't. Maybe it's quite good. Actually, maybe it's meant to be a bit dreary. It's 1981. 1981 was a dreary year. Yeah, for me, this is a 5 out of 5 for me, definitely.
And what about Press Gang? Even like with Dexter Fletcher Light.
Can I skip Dexter Fletcher? So while you have showed it, I now appreciate why other people like it so much. I still just find them all a bit annoying and smug, and I can't shift that. So on that basis, I'm going to be brutal. I'm going to give it a 2. I'm going to give it a 2. Sorry.
Oh God, Pete. Oof. But I think this is my 5. I think this is the one where I want a bit more like making of, and I want to kind of know their discussions that were going on behind the scenes, especially when they were putting together some of like the harsher plots, but also like just the absurd, like unexpected ones as well. Yeah, I love the attention to detail in that.
Yeah, all right. I've been harsh. I can't in reality say that it's only one step up from a test card. I'm going to give it a 3. I will give it a 3 because it was perfectly watchable. It made me laugh. I can contrast it with something like Buffy, which also, several years later, nearly 10 years later, that's got the same sort of quipping thing, but it's done. But I'd like the tone of it more because there's more self-deprecation to it than where this is about sparring with other people more. I don't know. It's hard to pin down exactly why it doesn't quite. It's not my style, but yeah, I can't give it less than a 3. It's very good at what it does, and it is funny, even if I wouldn't want to be locked in a room with any of these people.
Would you pick Dexter Fletcher over Griffith Stebson?
Over who?
Would you pick Dexter Fletcher over Grange Hill's Griffith
Griffith
Stebson?
from Grange Hill. Yeah. No, I think neither of those would be invited to my birthday party. Put it that way. No, he's so smug. He's so smug, and the whole thing about no one would want to go on a date with you. He's gaslighting her. He's literally gaslighting her and playing up to her insecurities in order to make her feel bad and go on a date with him. And I suppose it's a will they, won't they? But I knew like girls at uni who were in love with him, and I kept my powder dry. I just didn't. I was like, okay. Like, oh, he was gorgeous. Almost all of these are up on YouTube. The episodes we talked about today, aren't they?
Yeah.
Except
some of them, especially on the ITV Retro channel.
Oh yes, good point. Yeah, but because But Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, first episode, I couldn't find on YouTube, but I managed to find it on Dailymotion. But I've got the DVD of that anyway. But I couldn't watch that in the band. So.
Adrian Mole and Press Gang were both network releases, so that's good looks.
Yeah, better than nothing. Yeah. Well, we're closing down for the night at Cafe Ray now, so thank you for listening to the Cathode Ray Television Files. You've been listening to me, Pete.
And me, Hannah. We hope you'll join us next time for more television chat. For now, we'll wish you goodbye, and please remember to turn off your set. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
No, but Ray's Cathode Ray TV is what gave us the idea of meeting here once a fortnight to compare episodes from 3 different British TV series over the decades with a different theme. I should have inhaled before the start of that line. As soon as I started it, I realised. Okay.
And not to... thought I'd made it less of a mouthful.